Good morning, Hawks. Today we're going to talk about how to get started drawing the inlaid linoleum file. Your first task will be to open the software we'll be using, and that will be on your desktop. There should be a icon on your desktop for AutoCAD 2022. If you happen to not see that, or maybe you might be working from home and you've installed the software at home, if you go to the Start menu, the bottom left, we should be able to scroll down alphabetically and find the AutoCAD 2022 folder. And if you expand that, we should have the file or the icon shortcut to open up the software. Okay, so once you open that software up, you should see something that will look like this. You can see here I've got some files that the computer has remembered I have opened relatively recently. For your purposes, we're going to start by opening a template file. Okay, there's a video on that. If you haven't watched that video, please do so. I'm going to open up a template file here real quick to again kind of review. I'm going to either go up to the folder open up at the top left, or under this home tab, you see I've got an open function right here. I also am in the habit of going to the A in the top left and selecting open there. And we want to open a drawing. Okay. When you do that, you should get this pop-up window, and we need to navigate our way to where the template file is located. The template file is kind of like that blank piece of paper that has a title block on it that we started with the board drawings. If you forget to utilize this file, there will be a number of things missing. Most importantly, the proper title blocks, as well as a whole bunch of internal settings in the files, and the line types / layers. And we'll be talking about that here. So everybody should be able to, in this drop down at the top of the pop-up window, should be able to find the S drive. That is a local drive here at school that you can only access through the desktop computers. To my knowledge, you cannot get access to it through your Chromebook. Okay, so we're going to start by going there. You'll also hopefully see that you have a folder with your first initial last name on it. This is where your U drive, okay, the U / is our U drive. The S / is the shared drive. You do not have rights, okay, or access to save to the S drive. You'll need to save all your work on your U drive. Please do not save it to the desktop or the local folder with your name on it. You will not be able to access that anywhere but the computer you're on if you have the ability to save there. So we're going to go to the S drive. We're going to go to Main South, Students, AAT, Applied Tech, CAD Shared. Currently, this folder is now called Kraus. Mr. Themey, who was a previous teacher, is now retired, so it's just now called the Kraus folder, not the Kraus Themey folder or the Themey Kraus folder. I can't remember which one it was. We'll open that up, and to start, we're going to go down to this template files folder. We want to open that up, and there should be a file called the main mech temp. This is where we're going to start with all your mechanical drawing. So please open up that file. You will probably get this pop-up. Setting is read-only. Again, you do not have access to save to the S drive. Just go ahead and say yes to this, and you'll have a new file open. Again, in class, we'll talk about a lot of the settings or things that you can do in this file. First thing I'm going to do, before I do anything, you'll notice up at the top of the screen, it says main mech temp - read-only. You should never work in a read-only file. Sometimes people will open two files, and one of them will be read-only and one of them will not. If you work in a read-only file, it will not save for you unless you go through a couple more steps. So the first thing after opening the template file is we now want to do a save as. Okay, a save as and a drawing. Okay, so I'll begin at the top A, save as, and if you can either hit the save as button here, or the drawing is a type of file. This is a .dwg file. This is what most of the AutoCAD work we will do will be saved in. So when I click there, now I need to kind of think about what I'm doing. So the first thing is, again, you do not have access to save to the S drive. So you'll need to go to your U drive In that U drive, depending upon whether or not this is the first time you're using it, you may have nothing here. You can see I have a number of items here. If you do not have anything in your U drive, or this is the first time you're doing something for our CAD class, I might suggest you go over here to create a new folder, and that will start a new folder for you. And you'll see it's highlighted. I'm going to just call this CAD class. Okay, or CAD, or you can call it fun stuff. Doesn't matter what you name it. What's important is that you know what you've called it. Then we want to go inside that folder, and I can do one of two things. If this is the first time I'm opening this template file, if I don't want to go back to the S drive to get it every time I open it, I can save that file right into this folder, and then I can always get it from my U drive. For this example, we're going to talk about the Inlaid Linoleum, Linoleum, Inlaid Linoleum. I believe that's how you spell it, and I'm going to save it. And the important thing that's going to happen is now up at the top middle of our screen, it now is telling me I'm saving this file in my U drive in a folder called CAD class and the name of the file. Okay, that's the first step. Now, as this is the first drawing we're going to do in AutoCAD, there are a couple things that I want to talk about. We have this, what they call the ribbon up at the top, and there are menus. Each menu has different things. Okay, home is probably where we'll be most of the time. And you'll see that there are icons. You'll click on these. I'll also be talking about in class your ability to type information into this command window. Okay, this command window will probably be docked down at the bottom in class. I'll most likely have it up at the top, so it's a little bit easier for you to see during demonstrations. The file we have opened has some things set up. First and foremost, this is our layer control. These are line types that are set up to represent different things. So you see this OBJ, this is our object line layer. This is what most of our visible lines will be drawn as. If we have center marks in our circles, we'll be using the center line. If we have hidden lines, we'll be using the HID layer. If we have to do dimensions, it'll be suggested that you use the DIM layer. Okay, so this is one of the big things that you will not see if you do not use a template file. Okay, the next one over here where it says by layer, I recommend never touching this. Okay, the only thing you should do with layers is change them here. Down at the bottom left-hand corner of our screen, you'll see we're currently in model space. Model space is this large black, effectively infinitely small and large space. This is where we're going to draw our work. Okay, we're going to draw everything here full size. Okay, so for this file type, it's set for inches. Later in the year, we'll be doing feet and inches for architecture work. You'll also see that there is an A size and a B size tab. If you click on the A size tab, this is referred to as paper space. This is the title block that you have been using for the board drawing. Okay, and we'll talk more about the title block when we get ready to print things. Okay, but this is another thing that will not exist in a non-template file. So if you just start a new file in AutoCAD, this probably doesn't exist. We won't have all these layers. You'll have maybe one layer, and then there are some other things going on in the background that might be confusing. Okay, the next step is we are looking to do the inlaid linoleum. Okay, I will be posting that on our classroom page. However, you can also access it through the S drive. So you'll see I went down in the bottom left-hand corner. I have a folder down here. You might not have that folder depending upon how they've set up your machine. If you go to the Start menu and you go to this folder, or this looks like a new document folder, and I click Documents, it should open up the same folder. And I'm going to make my way to the shared drive, South, Students, AAT, Applied Tech, CAD Shared, Kraus. We're going to go into the CAD 1 assignments folder, And in there should be a board folder. We were doing this drawing on the board first. And you'll see there is the Inlaid Linoleum file. Again, depending on what they've done with your computer, this may or may not open as a PDF. Again, so you may have to go through either your Chromebook or a browser and look at it through our classroom page. So we're going to be using this for reference, and now we have to talk about how to draw things. So I'm going to be flipping back and forth between this file and AutoCAD. So let's go back to AutoCAD. I am in my Inlaid Linoleum drawing, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start drawing with some lines, okay? When I click on line, you'll see my cursor is going to kind of give me some information. If everything is set up on your computer the same, you'll see it's asking me to start things. You'll see in the bottom left-hand corner we have an X and a Y. It's just like a grid on a piece of graph paper. X is going to be horizontal, Y is going to be vertical. Does not matter where I start. I'm going to left click to start a line, and you'll see here as I drag the line out, it is telling me the distance that's currently highlighted in blue. Okay, so we're getting whole inches and decimal inches. We'll also see that it's showing me an angle if I am trying to draw at an angle. Now, personally, I find there are some settings in the software that are quite useful to help us make sure we draw perfectly horizontal and perfectly vertical lines. That option is right down here, and it is called Ortho mode, okay? You can see it's also accessible with the F8 key on your keyboard. It is currently not turned on. If I hit the button with my left mouse, you'll see that it is currently highlighted. So what that immediately did is it restricts my lines to perfectly vertical or perfectly horizontal. Okay, another item, and I'm going to hit escape here. Another item that is quite useful is this option, this object snap. Okay, you see that's F11, and O snap, which is F3. And these are F keys on your keyboard. Okay, these will help us find things like endpoints of lines, midpoints of lines. And again, we'll make things much more precise because AutoCAD will go to, I don't know, 9 or 10 decimal points to the right of 0. So if I was to draw a line very quickly, and if I hit escape is always a good way to try to cancel a command. Okay, you can see up in here, I'm hitting escape. When I go to line, it's going to give me hints on what it wants, what the software needs. Okay, so as we're learning things, it's very important to pay attention to that command bar. If I wanted to draw a line, let's say from the end point of this line I already have, you see how it's now highlighted with a green square. Okay, that is our object snap. It is trying to help me say, hey, do you want to start that new line at the exact endpoint of that other line? And if I do, I will left click there, and now that new line will start drawing from there perfectly. Okay, so left clicks, I'm just drawing a bunch of lines here, and you'll notice I can't go on an angle. If I wanted to go on angle, I can hit F8 on my keyboard or come down and turn off ortho, and now I can draw lines at angles. Okay, but most of the stuff we're going to work on is going to be in perfectly 90-degree locations, so horizontal and vertical. If you ever have a mistake and you want to get rid of something completely, there's a couple different ways to do that. Up at the top left here, we have this thing that looks like a pencil eraser. This is the erase command. I can select that erase command, and I can select the line, okay, with a left click. And it tells me here I found one object. And if I'm done selecting, I can hit enter on my keyboard. Okay, you'll see it erase that line. Or if I go back and I just hit Control Z. Control Z is undo. Okay, you also have an undo button up at the top here. Okay. If I wanted to select that same thing again, and if I right click on my mouse, that will also kind of function as the enter key on your keyboard. Another way that I can remove things, maybe I've got a lot of stuff here that I want to get rid of. There is the left click, okay, and let go. And now I have what's called a selection window. This is a blue selection window, and this works from left to right. This window has to completely enclose what I'm looking to select and delete. Okay, and if I left click there, it will keep those items selected. When they are selected, you'll see that there are a number of things called grips. These are those blue squares. I can grab these and click and drag and do things with them, but right now we're just talking about deleting things. On your keyboard, you have a backspace button. That does nothing. I'm pressing that button right now, and that doesn't delete things. But a little bit to the right of that backspace button, you'll see that there's a delete button on your keyboard. And if you hit that, that will erase or delete what you have selected. If I want to left click and drag to the right, you'll see I have a green square with a dashed line or hidden line around the outside. This is another selection box, but this selection box only has to touch something and it will select it. Okay, so again, left click to finish that and delete key to delete. So some basic stuff there, but let's get drawing. So just like on our paper, sometimes I like to start by laying out a rectangle. And this is an 8" by 5 1/2" rectangle. So I'm going to go to AutoCAD, I'm going to get a line, and I'm going to left click to start, and I'm going to turn my ortho on with F8. And I'm either going to go horizontal or vertical. I'm going to go horizontal here, and I'm going to type in 8 on my keyboard. Okay. I just typed 8. You'll see now that blue highlighted area is turned to an 8 rather than whatever I drag out. And I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. And you'll see right there, I should have now drawn an 8" line. Okay, notice I am on the object layer. That's where I want to be, at least for now. If I'm not sure what I'm drawing here, before I get too far, I may want to come up here and get a dimension. Okay, there is this general dimension. This is relatively new. This AutoCAD kind of selects and guesses what you want to show. I'm not a huge fan of this when you're beginning, simply because sometimes you want it to do something and it wants to do something else. So I'm going to grab this linear dimension real quick. Okay, linear, left click on it, and you can see it's asking me, hey, where's your first extension line? Well, I'm going to come down here, and because I have object snap on, OSnap, that's our F3 button, you'll see it wants to highlight the end point of that line, so I'm going to left click there, and I'm going to come over to the other end of my line and left click there, and you'll see right here, and by the way, right now I'm doing what's called zoom. That is done with the scroll button on your mouse, so you can zoom in and out. You can see I have, if I left click to place that, I've just confirmed that I did in fact draw an 8" line. Okay, good habit to get into. Make sure you're getting the right size that you think you are when you're starting things. Okay, so we have so I had to zoom. You can see zoom. If I press and hold that scroll button, you'll see this little hand. Okay, this is called pan. If I press and hold the scroll button and I drag left, right, up, or down, this is how I'm going to kind of move around in three-dimensional or the model space. We're going to go back up and get a line. I'm going to draw this time starting at either corner of the line because I stopped, and I'm going to go 5.5 and hit enter. And I'll zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to do dragging my cursor in the direction I want the line to go. I'm going to type in 8. Okay, and I'm going to come down here to the end point of the other line, left click to end it, and I'm going to hit escape. And right now I should have a 5.5 by 8" square. Let's double check that. There's the 5.5. And if we do another one here, there's my 8. Okay, so just like on our piece of paper, I don't have to worry about centering this, but if this is 5.5 by 8, everything that I draw should be inside this square. Okay, so it's a good thing to verify. And before I do anything much more, I'm going to save what I've just done. And I can do that by going up to the save icon up at the top left. I can drop the A down and hit save, or on my keyboard, I can hit Control S. And as long as I have a location for this file to go to, when I hit that Control S, it will automatically save for me. I would suggest you get in the habit of saving regularly. AutoCAD does not do that for you. Okay, so now we've got our rectangle, but now we've got to start laying other things out. Okay, some students will get in bad habits and they'll start like drawing this 2.5" line. They'll draw a line on top of a line. Let me show you what that looks like. This is a bad habit, so you should not do this. And then to highlight this, I'm going to put a different layer here. Okay, so I can put things on layers whenever I want. I'm gonna select this hatch layer real quick, and I'm just going to show you. Some people will do this. They'll come up here and they'll start a line, and they're going to drag this out at 2.5 inches, and they're going to hit enter. And now what I have here is a situation that is bad. Okay, it may never bother you, but if you continue to go on, depending on how advanced you might get, lines on top of lines are bad. Okay, you should not do that. Another thing that's somewhat common is sometimes people will draw a line, let's say this long, right? And then they'll draw another line that's that long. And then eventually they'll get over to here, and now they have one, you see how it highlighted one line, two lines, three lines. If you've got something that is one line, okay, a line is the shortest distance between 2 points. The 2 points, if I select this line, is the start of the line over here. Okay, in the top left corner here, there's the start of my line, and over here is the end of my line. I should not have multiple things going on for that line. Okay, so those are some bad habits. What I suggest is using a command called offset. Okay, now this can get a little confusing, but let me show you. And I'm not going to draw this entire object. I want you to use some tools, and I want you to try and figure out how to do some things. Okay, so I'm going to use an offset command for 2.5 inches. Let me show you what that looks like. Top left, okay, in this draw area. Now we're going to modify this little thing that looks like two C's together. This is our offset tool. And I like this very much because it can be very accurate, and it doesn't require me to do a lot of extra measurement or drawing. So when I go to the offset command, again, every one of these commands that are up here or under with these menus, you have to understand how they work. There are lots of different ways to draw things. Some of them are faster or quicker than others. So when you go into a command, it's going to give you options. Okay, up in this command window, it says offset, specify the offset distance. You can see there's some items here that are kind of highlighted. I can left click on those, or I can start typing if I want to use some of those options. But right now, I don't want to do anything. I just want to tell it a distance. And that distance was going to be, let's double check, 2.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to type in 2.5. Okay, so I know what the decimal equivalent is of a half an inch, 2.5. And when I do that, you'll see it now tells me in this little window here, off that distance, it's now set to 2.5 inches. And now I have a thing called a pick box, And it's telling me, hey, what do you want to offset? Well, I'm going to start by offsetting this line. So I'm going to left click on it. And you'll see here, depending upon which side of this line that I put my cursor on, and I do have ortho on, by the way. If I turn ortho off, it's not going to affect anything right here. I'll turn it back on though. And I want to offset this line to the right, in this case, 2.5 inches. So I left clicked, and that line is now 2.5 inches over. If I was being efficient, I would also want to offset for this line over here. So this end of our square or rectangle, we want to offset that over 2.5 inches to get those lines, okay, or those portions of those lines. So while I'm in the offset command, I'm going to do the same thing, left click, and then go to the left of that line, and now I have two lines that are 2.5 inches. Exactly. Let's look at this. Okay, 2.5 inches that side, 2.5 inches this side. Okay, so those are perfectly spaced lines. The downside is we don't want this entire line. Okay. Another technique, because sometimes we can get a lot of lines here when we're kind of doing this geometric construction. We're kind of projecting things, and we might have to find intersection points where things are located. Sometimes people find these, there can be a lot of lines here, and they can be confusing. One of the things that might be a good technique is to select lines, okay, and we can put them on another layer. And I would suggest that you use this construction layer. Okay, this construction layer, it's going to be a different color. These lines just helps you differentiate what's going on, because again, they can get kind of confusing. Okay, Next one, let's do the 1 1/2 inch line, right? So we're going to now take this top edge line and we're going to offset it down 1 1/2 inches. And I'm going to probably do the same thing down here at the bottom. Take that line and offset it up 1 1/2 inches. So let's go back to AutoCAD, offset command. It's currently remembered that I had it at 2 1/2 inches. This time I want 1 1/2 inches. So let me show you another thing. If I go 1 dash 1/2, 1 1/2, and I hit enter, that will take a, again, whole inch and a fractional inch, and AutoCAD will convert that. So if I take that line, I offset it down, select that line at the bottom, offset it up. Let's just verify that my input was correct. And you'll see that that is at 1 1/2 inches. Okay. So another way to input things, decimal form or whole inch fractional form. And again, just to keep my brain in the same spot, I'm going to turn those to construction lines as well. And I'm going to hit Control S and it's going to save what I have going on here. All right. Now, I'm really only going to show you how to draw like this sort of corner up here. Okay. Show you a couple more commands and then you'll have roughly enough information to draw this object. And we'll pick up with dimensioning and printing in another video. So I now want to do this 1 inch line here. Okay, so I'm going to take, again, that right side line or the left side line and offset it in 1 inch. So I'm going to do that next. So I'm going to get that offset command. I'll type in 1 inch, so just 1, enter. I'm going to take this line, offset it over 1, take this line, offset it over 1. Okay, again, you see we're getting a lot of lines going on here. Okay, so it can get confusing. So there is our 1 inch line. Okay, I think the next thing, I'm not going to talk about this line right now. I'm just going to put one in to show you how we would create this shape. Okay, again, make sure you pay attention to the information down here when you're drawing. But again, I'm going to show you, I'm just going to put in a line to represent that location. I'm going to show you another new command. Okay, a lot of new stuff here at the beginning. So I'm just going to grab a line and I'm going to, I don't know, let's put it in right about here. And I'm just going to draw that in. And you notice we've got a couple different color lines going. And now I kind of want to box out a shape. I want kind of like this L shape here. Okay. So the easiest way to kind of start getting rid of portions of lines is to use a command called trim. Okay. Okay, we're up under the Modify tab up here, and it kind of looks like a pair of scissors. Okay. I can also, by the way, if I know what a command is called, I can type it in the command window, and you'll see there's a number of different options here, and I can type in a command if I know what it's called. Okay. Now, the thing about trim is it used to require you to do a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. And it looks like AutoCAD has adjusted itself, and now it pretty much will just let you trim any line that you don't want. So let's pretend all I was looking to do is just kind of L-shaped object right here. So I don't need that portion of that line, and I don't need that portion of that line, and I don't need that portion of that line. And maybe I don't need that line, and 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 that line. Right? So we can start kind of clearing things up because again, this can get kind of confusing. Okay. Now I have this shape over here and it's made up of lots of different line types. Eventually, I probably want to get that into all the same layer. Okay. So I'm going to select all of that information at once. And I'm going to go up to this layer drop down. Notice how it was darkened out. It had too much going on there. And I'm just going to go down and select the object layer. And you'll see, and I hit escape there to deselect, escape to deselect, and now I have all of those lines, even though they were all different colors and they were all different layers, they're all now the same layer. They're all on the object layer. Okay, Hawks? So I'm going to save that. Again, your task, all you should need to know is how to draw a line. If you use that offset command to get lines where you need them to be, and then that trim command, and you should be able to get the shape here drawn. In the next video, we'll pick up with how to put dimensions in and how to do your first print. All right, have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.